Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Grizzly True Crime. My name is Grizzly, and today we are meeting for the second time. If you missed the first one, don't worry, for the opening statements in Letecia Stauch's trial. So thank you so much for being here, especially if you were here earlier. Earlier, they were still busy with jury selection. So this is all supposed to start in the next 4 minutes. I have got the court site going. It's just saying it hasn't started yet. So I will put it on as soon as it starts. And yes, I got my court blazer on. Janet, no one reminded me earlier. Like, where's your court blazer? I was like, oh my word. Normally I dress up for court, you guys. I put my court blazer on. So yes, let me quickly just see. I was making a little video file for you. I just want to see if it downloaded for while we wait. If you want to share blue hearts in the chat for Gannon, as well as a little hedgehog, because he loved Sonic the Hedgehog. Okay, so let's just see. This is a presentation I made quite some time ago. So I just found it now because I wanted to show you some pictures and things while we wait. So okay, I said disclaimer. So there we go. We've got a disclaimer there. Yes, blue hearts and hedgehogs. His favorite was Sonic the Hedgehog. So this crime took place at 6627 Mandan Drive, Colorado. That would be the house where Gannon was living. He was 11 years old with his stepmother and with his dad. His mom and dad were divorced. His dad got remarried to Letecia Stauch, and he was actually staying with his mom before, but then Gannon decided for a while to move in with his dad and stay there. So that's what was happening there. And then let's have a look. Thank you. That's so cute, you guys, with all the hedgehogs and everything. Letecia Stauch took a photograph of Gannon in bed at 8:13 a.m. on January 27th, and this was in 2020, and he was murdered between 2:16 p.m. and 5:34 p.m. on the same day. Now, just know that today we're watching the opening statements, so they said there should be about an hour per side today. Tomorrow is when the evidence starts. I won't be streaming the whole trial. I'd normally do trial prep, opening statements, sometimes then closing statements, and then, of course, we want to, see the sentencing and all that. But I'm not going to stream the whole trial, just so that you know, just a heads up. But if you are already subscribed for a while, you already know that. Just letting you know if you're new, so you don't get disappointed. I will be watching, but I generally bring summaries or take notes, and later we do a summary or something like that. So that's what's happening there. Okay, so we carry on. If you want to see how I do it, go and check out the Chandler Halderson case. That's what I did as well. Bring summaries, at least once a week or so. This will go on for 6 to 8 weeks. So here they say this is what is assumed to be a photo of the candle wax on the carpet. It's sourced from Reddit, so let's keep it speculative. Someone close to the case allegedly shared it. So there's something about the candle wax, and oh man, that voice note, we don't want to hear it again. The recording. As I say, this is a presentation I made a while ago, so I just wasn't too sure. I did check what's on it. I just mean it's not like got the whole timeline. We've already gone over that, so check out those videos on the playlist. This is Gannon Stauch. I mean, 11 years old. Look at him. He's so sweet, and his stepmother is accused of murdering him. Yes. Fairy Gaga says white candle, red wax. Make it make sense. I know, right? Sure. Yes. Okay. So just so that you know, I'm just showing you who's the victim, who's the accused. Letecia Stauch is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law, and trial time is finally, after 3 years, it's trial time. My word, there's been a lot of delays. And Letecia's pleading not guilty by reason of insanity. So, yes. Gannon's biological mother and father pictured here. That's Gannon as well. Oh, man. And one of the mental health experts said that Letecia was in a psychotic state when the crime was committed. We'll have to see what happens throughout this trial. So, justice for Gannon, blue hearts, hedgehogs. That would be great to share in the chat. Okay, so it's still just saying the webinar is not started yet. So just how long is it now? Now it's 9:31 p.m. for me. So it's 1:31 p.m. over there. And they said they're having lunch, and then they're starting at 1:30. So it should really be any minute now. I'll show you what it looks like. It's what it looks like. So just waiting for that. I'm just going to leave this on the screen for a second. Just want to bring a few things over here. Let's just see what's happening. Yep, everyone's just waiting. Yeah, this is the thing. Lorenzo, she is evil, not insane, too much premeditation. I mean, she really, it's like the renting of the cars, the planning, the lies, the way she calculated everything. I mean, my goodness. I agree with you. Yes, this is the thing. Janet also says Lori Daybell starts today too. Evil woman for sure. Yes, that also, that hers starts with jury selection today, Lori Bello. So if you missed those updates and the entire deep dive, I did a 4-part deep dive on Lori Bello's case, and check out that playlist as well. Mercedes Hardwick says, has a motive or reason come out as to why she did this to him? No. Now they're saying, psychotic states and all that kind of stuff. But I just want to see if I can. Oh, sorry. Just want to see. Okay, the webinar's not started yet. Where is it now? Sorry, trying to find it quickly. Trying to find this. Let's just see if I can. Remember, we've looked at the Google searches she did before. She seemed to be unhappy in her relationship. So I don't know if that contributed to it, but either way, there's no excuse. Let's just see what's going on here. Okay. Join webinar. We try again. And open WebEx. Okay. Join.
And I will turn off the perimeter lights when we get there so that everybody can see. And so let's go ahead and let them in.
Can you guys hear? Please tell me if you can't hear the stream. I hope you can. And yes, Angela, go check out the deep dive. We did it on members and patrons, and it's on my playlist as well. Yes, she was sort of planning on leaving. She was unhappy in the relationship. Okay, opening statements. You guys, welcome. And you can hear it fine. Thank you. Double Z, I wish I could boost it, but it's not on Chrome or anything, so I don't think I can boost it now.
You're using that Ms. Gratiano, you're using that laptop, right? That's what should be coming up on the screen. Okay. Yep.
Hey, everyone. Thank you for being here. Here we go. Cindy, I often do trial prep and stream opening statements. I did it in many cases. So opening statements, very important. So I will not be streaming the whole trial. But thank you so much for being here for the opening statements. I do bring summaries, though. So if you like summaries and bullet points and things like that, that's what I do.
Are we good? All right. Let's go ahead and bring the jury in.
Thank you, Wildfire. Emily says, we love bullet points. I will be bringing you summaries, bullet points. If you don't have time to watch this whole trial, I generally summarize things. So, yes. Jane says this is upsetting for everyone. It sure is.
Becky, are you using this for bench conferences or? Okay.
Thank you so much. Yes, Berna, the judge is ready. He's clearing his throat, yes. Shirley, the WebEx is not available for the Daybell case. They only do audio files and only after the day, from what I understand.
I'm actually checking it again. All rise for the jury, please. Yes.
Remain on throughout the trial, or is it something?
Unless I turn them on, and I will let you know if I do
Okay.
that.
You can hear a pin drop.
Thank you, may all be seated. Court will call 20 CR 135A, People versus Letecia Stauch. Record should reflect the jury has returned to the courtroom. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. When we took our recess, I told you that we would start with opening statements at this point in time, and that's where we will begin. Again, remember that nothing that the attorneys say is evidence. This is this is sort of an overview of what they believe the evidence will show. With that, prosecution.
Okay, each one allocated with an hour. Okay, so the prosecution has a maximum of 1 hour.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was asking if you could turn.
You want it now? Go ahead. Okay.
And if you want to dim the lights, I'm fine.
I can't, actually, I thought this was for perimeter lights like it is in my courtroom, but it's not. Their panel is up there. If you want to dim the perimeter lights, it's up to you. Okay, all right.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. Paramount question you will have to answer as jurors in this case has to do with sanity, specifically the defendant's sanity. At the conclusion of the evidence, the court will give you jury instructions. One specific jury instruction will talk specifically about insanity. It will read that as to the question of sanity, the defendant was insane at the time of the commission of the acts if she was so diseased or defective in mind at the time of the commission of the acts as to be incapable of distinguishing right from wrong with respect to that act, or she suffered from a condition of mind caused by a mental disease or defect that prevented her from forming a culpable mental state. That is an essential element of a crime charge. A culpable mental state is like an intentionally or knowingly. Evidence in this case will show that she could distinguish between right and wrong, and that she was absolutely capable of forming the specific intent required for these charges. Those instructions will go on to give specific guidance on what qualifies as a mental disease or defect. It says care should not be taken to confuse mental disease or defect with moral obliquity, mental depravity, passion growing out of anger, revenge, or hatred, or other motives and kindred evil conditions. Because when an act is induced by any of these causes, the ones that I just listed, the person is accountable to the law, meaning that person can be found guilty for committing crimes charged. You should consider the evidence you will hear in this case in context with that instruction. This case is about two people. First is Gannon Stauch, an 11-year-old little boy, came into this world premature, weighing just 1 pound 6 ounces. He proved to be a fighter, overcame the difficulties associated with being born so small. He's survived by his mother, Landon Hyatt, his father, Al Stauch, and his precocious little sister, Layla. On January 26, 2020, something bad happened inside the Stauch family home. Gannon suffered some burns. You'll learn this from a video recording this defendant made that night, January 26th. You'll hear her as she manipulated Gannon, putting guilt on him for some mistake that a child made. And in that recording, you'll hear Gannon say in his own words, "I'm just worried about my burns."
Two, I just don't know what to do.
Trigger warning.
Well, devastating. Initially, Scott, I can't lie when the TMZ information.
Gannon, I promise it's the last time I'm gonna ask you. I'm just freaked out, okay? Are you sure you didn't do it on purpose? Okay, you promise. You promise. Pinky promise. Okay, all right, so listen. We're, all right, we're gonna have to sell stuff to fix it, okay? So we figure out what we gotta sell. We can sell the sofa. We can sell whatever, because we gotta get it fixed. So lady, don't be mad at us and kick us out of the house. Okay? You got it? You got it?
I'm just worried about my
Okay, shh, listen. So tomorrow,
The other person in this case is that last voice you just heard, who said so tomorrow. This lady sitting right here, the defendant. January 26, 2020, and into January 27, 2020, she was the sole provider for Gannon. Her husband, Al Stauch, Gannon's father, serves in the National Guard. He was in Oklahoma for National Guard training, left that Saturday night, the 25th. Everything that happened to Gannon from that point forward was her decision. She carried out actions to kill Gannon, to put his body in the suitcase and hide it, to hide evidence of what she did to Gannon. Told numerous stories to investigators to manipulate the course of the investigation. And finally, to discard Gannon inside that suitcase off of a Florida bridge like garbage. January 27, 2020, Gannon's home located at 6627 Mandan Drive here in Colorado Springs, Colorado, turned into the stuff of nightmares. In fact, the one place a little boy like Gannon should have felt the safest, his bedroom, turned into, like I said, the stuff of nightmares. That bedroom is in fact where he was brutally murdered. The defendant attacked him viciously, mercilessly, deliberately, and intentionally. These are exhibits that you'll see from the doctor down in Florida, Dr. Ignacio, when she performed the autopsy. He'll tell you that Gannon suffered 18 stab wounds to his body, his chest, his back, his head, and most importantly, his arms and his hands. Why is that important? Gannon was fighting for his life, and those were defensive wounds. Next came a crushing blow to his head that was so strong, it fractured his skull like an eggshell. That wasn't enough for this defendant. He retrieved a 9mm handgun, fired it at Gannon 3 times. 2 bullets struck the pillow near him and were caught in the fibers of that pillow. That 3rd bullet entered his jaw, traveled through his head, fracturing his mandible, his vertebrae, hitting his spinal cord, and lodged in the back of his head and was recovered at autopsy. Gannon's life drained from his body, drop by drop. The photo that's on the screen right now is a picture of his bedroom. Same corner where he was in that picture, or where you'll see him in a picture in the bed. Each one of those markers signifies a small blood drop that splattered across his wall. It ran down the corner of his mattress. Soaked through the carpet padding, and puddled on the concrete foundation below that carpet. The defendant then took very deliberate action. She decided to hide her crimes from the world. And she took action to hide those crimes from the world. She collected Gannon's bloody and broken body and the blankets and pillow that were near him and shoved them into a suitcase and hid them in the storage unit in that basement. That basement storage unit is right around the corner from Gannon's bedroom. What she didn't know is that she was leaving clues behind in that storage room. That plastic tub that you see in the bottom left portion of that picture has Gannon's blood on it. There was an Amazon box in that storage room that has Gannon's blood on it. The concrete floor in that storage room had Gannon's blood on it. The defendant next decided to clean Gannon's room. Deliberately, intentionally, knowing what she was doing. She scrubbed the walls, cleaning them off. She scrubbed the carpet with scrub brushes that were later found in the dishwasher. Those scrub brushes have carpet fibers in them. They have blood on them. They have Gannon's DNA on them. This is Gannon's bedroom when members of the El Paso County Sheriff's Office first came to the house on January 27th in the evening hours. This is what it looked like. No obvious signs of a struggle. No obvious signs of blood as they walked through the house and through Gannon's bedroom. There were no obvious signs of a struggle or a murder because the defendant had cleaned them up. And also realized she had Gannon's blood on her person. Clothes that she was wearing, likely containing Gannon's blood, based off of how much blood had hit the walls, were never found. Her clothing was never found. These shoes, the defendant's shoes, were found on the washing machine, drying. That reddish rust color that you can see on the soles, Gannon's blood and DNA were found on those shoes. You can see just how much blood she was walking through as she was cleaning up that mess. Took more deliberate action. She collected and discarded other important clues. I mentioned she stabbed Gannon 18 times. The instrument that she used to stab Gannon has never been found. That 9mm handgun that she used to fire 3 rounds at Gannon, shell casing ejected out of that firearm each time she pulled the trigger. No shell casing was ever found in Gannon's room. She then took more deliberate action when she hid Gannon in a suitcase, first in her car, and then up north near the El Paso County, Douglas County line. GPS location data was used to track her locations or her movements. And it led to another grisly discovery up just in this area here. A board was found under a tree. That board had Gannon's blood on it. This is miles away from the Stauch family home, which is in the southeast part of the city, close to the airport. You'll learn through testimony that this board came from the Stauch family garage. Then took more deliberate and thoughtful action. She loaded the suitcase containing Gannon into the back of a rented van and drove to Florida. And that's the course of her travels from here to Florida. She rented a hotel room in Pensacola, Florida on February 4th, 2020. She drove a short distance from that hotel room, which is sort of by those blue angular marks on the map, up to where that red square is on the map. Drove a short distance from that hotel room, across a dark bridge that drives over a river that flows into the Gulf of Mexico. There she acted with determined purpose. Stopped that van. We hauled the suitcase out of the back of that van, drug it to the side of the road, hoisted it up over the railing, pushed it over the side, hoping that Gannon would never be found. 48 days later, 1,300 miles away from where Gannon was murdered, the search for answers and Gannon's remains finally ended. on March 17th, 2020, when the suitcase that came from that basement storage room, Gannon's remains, blankets, and the pillow were found by an unlucky bridge worker checking that bridge for safety. And imagine the shock that he felt when he realized what was inside that suitcase. Inside that suitcase, obviously Gannon's decomposing remains. Also, these two blankets and that pillow. Remember the pictures that I showed just a moment ago of Gannon in bed? These pictures were taken by this defendant on the morning of January 27, 2020. Sent them by text message to Gannon's father, Al, who was in Oklahoma for training. Take note of those blankets. Take note of the blankets that were recovered from that suitcase. The very same blankets and pillow that were in those pictures on January 27, 2020 were found 1,300 miles away with Gannon underneath that bridge. The defendant then purposely, intentionally came up with numerous different stories about what had happened. Gannon was missing, went to a friend's house and never returned. Gannon was kidnapped and she was raped by a guy named Eduardo. Gannon was kidnapped and she was raped, but this time by a guy named Quincy Brown. She went to look for a bike up near that Douglas County, El Paso County line. Gannon test rode that bike, crashed, and suffered a horrible head injury. And a guy named Quincy Brown takes Gannon, and now the defendant doesn't know where she is, where Gannon is. Cartels were somehow involved with Gannon's disappearance. And most cruelly, that Landon Hyatt, Gannon's mother, was involved with Gannon's disappearance. All of her actions were purposely designed by her to distance herself from what she did. Throw off investigators, buy her time, escape accountability for what she did to Gannon on January 27, 2020. At the conclusion of the evidence that we'll be presenting in this case, you'll be asked to determine whether the defendant is guilty or not guilty of the charges that we've leveled against her. You'll also be asked to determine whether she was sane or insane at the time that she killed Gannon. All of her decisions, all of her deliberate actions betray her claims of insanity. She knew that what she had done to Gannon was wrong. Why hide it? You'll hear her own voice through recorded phone calls and interviews. The evidence itself will prove her sanity. As jurors, part of your job will be to determine how much credibility, if any, you give to the witnesses. That same rule applies to expert witnesses. You'll get to hear from doctors. You'll get to hear from GPS expert witnesses. Lawyers get tongue-tied sometimes. And when they take the stand and take an oath, you get to judge whether what they are saying makes sense. Is it credible or not? And if it's not credible, you get to discard it. If it's credible, you can use it in your deliberations, but you all get to decide whether that credibility extends to that witness or not. The same will hold true for our expert witnesses and the defense expert witnesses. Get to hear from a doctor that will testify that the defendant was insane at the time of the murder of Gannon Stauch on January 27, 2020. With all expert witnesses, you should gauge what they're saying, measure it against the other evidence that you're hearing. Does it make sense or not? Like all expert witnesses, if it doesn't make sense, you can discard it. You'll also hear from others who knew her best. People that have the best opportunity to see how she was acting. Did she understand the difference between right and wrong? Could she form intent? People like Al Stauch, the man who was married to her. People like her brother, Dakota Lowry, who flew out here after Gannon went missing. And most importantly, her very own daughter, Harley Hunt. See, Harley Hunt was in the best position to know the defendant's state of mind, especially as it relates to when this crime occurred. She was the only other older person in the house. When Al left to Oklahoma, Harley Hunt was working. She's young, 17 years old at the time, thinking about going into the Air Force. But she becomes the defendant's closest confidant after the defendant killed Gannon Stauch. In fact, she also rode with the defendant on that van ride from Colorado Springs to Florida. She'll be able to tell you in her own words, whether the defendant understood the difference between right and wrong, whether she could act intentionally or deliberately or not. And she'll tell you that she could on both counts. Remember, this case is about two people. Gannon had no choice what happened to him that day on January 27th. The other, this defendant, she held every single decision in her hands. She took deliberate, thoughtful actions that ended a precious life and tore a family apart. Your job as jurors will be to listen intently to all of the evidence. Because even the most mundane evidence, it might seem inconsequential when you're listening, is being given to you purposely so that you can make the determinations you need to make as jurors. Did she understand the difference between right and wrong? Was she able to form a culpable mental state? Every single piece of evidence that comes from this chair will be used by you to make that determination. The next time I get to talk with you directly the way I'm doing right now, that'll mean we've concluded evidence. And we're giving closing arguments. At that time, both sides will get to ask you to make determinations based on what you all have heard. We're going to ask you to hold us to our burden of proof. The criminal justice system doesn't work if you don't hold us to our burden of proof. Our burden of proof is proof beyond a reasonable doubt. The things we have to prove are the elements of the crimes charged. We also have to disprove that the defendant is insane, meaning essentially we have to prove that she was sane. The evidence will do that for you. We'll ask you to give justice to Gannon Stauch. We'll ask you to find this defendant guilty for what she did to him more than 3 years ago. We'll ask you to find her guilty of murder in the first degree. Murder in the first degree of a child under 12 years of age. Tampering with a deceased human body for taking Gannon's body from that scene and transporting it across the country. And tampering with physical evidence. We'll ask you to convict her on each and every one of those charges. And the evidence will guide you towards those convictions. On January 27, 2020, 6:55 p.m., the defendant herself called 911. She called 911 to report that Gannon was missing and not come home. Call taker, you'll hear, ask the defendant, who was the last person to see Gannon?
That's the last person to see him. I guess me.
The evidence will show that she was the last person to see Gannon alive. The evidence will show that she was sane on January 27, 2020, when she ended Gannon's life. The evidence will show that she acted intentionally and deliberately when she took Gannon's life. And then we will ask you to convict her. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Defense,
Letecia's here, you guys, in the corner.
Mr. Cook.
And Harley, I put it in the comments, is Letecia's daughter. Okay, so that was the prosecution. Now the defense. How long was that? Wasn't too long. Okay.
Good afternoon, members of the jury. I talked to some of you during jury selection over the last couple of weeks. To some of you, I want to reintroduce myself. My name is Will Cook. I, along with Mr. Cellini, represent Letecia Stauch. Now, this is a very tough case. We looked at the jury questionnaires, prosecution. There was a lot of strong feelings. Questionnaires. Have you formed an opinion about Ms. Stauch? Got a lot of she's guilty. Got a few she's evil. People forming opinions about this case before they ever hear one shred of evidence. Because a defense attorney in this case is very worrisome when people have come in and they have preconceived notions of what's going on. With respect to the question on the paperwork that you got about insanity, what do you think about insanity? Is it valid? Something that's legitimate? A lot of people said insanity is just a way to get out of taking responsibility. It's an excuse. It doesn't exist. It's fake. Got a lot of that. So I, as the defense attorney, have two big problems in the case. I represent Ms. Stauch, who, according to a lot of jury questionnaires, is evil
This is
and
our
guilty. And us raising insanity is a bunch of BS. A lot to deal with. Been looking at this case for going on 3 years now. All the photos, I've seen all the reports Mr. Tellini has. It's a lot. What you saw on the board this afternoon, that's the PG stuff, the rated G information, photos you're going to see. For a general audience, go forward in this case, you're going to see the autopsy photos. You're going to see the photos of when Gannon was brought out of the suitcase. And they're horrible. Horrible. It was an awful, awful thing that was done to Gannon. And I see Mr. Allen get up here and he's emotional, almost into tears talking about it. And I get it. I get it. What happened to that little 11-year-old boy is beyond description. The facts of this case, awful. You know, it's so bad. This is a lost cause.
Where's it going? No, I can't hear a thing. Yes, Bernil.
Ladies and gentlemen, I can't quit. I can't leave this courtroom. Got to do my job in this case. Mr. Tellini does. I can't just, after that opening statement, all the information that I've seen, the photos, the smiling picture of Gannon, hearing about him being shot and stabbed multiple times. Hundreds of witnesses and 800 pieces of evidence that are going to come in. I can't check out now and just sit down and write this out. I can't do it because it wouldn't be fair. It wouldn't be fair to the court system, the process, and it wouldn't be fair to Ms. Stauch. And I know people will say, well, who gives a shit about what's fair for Ms. Stauch?
This guy is so dramatic, oh my word.
The court systems do. The law does. the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. A war fought over these things that we're dealing with today. Old school laws, the presumption of innocence, right to remain silent, stuff that comes all the way back from old Boston and Paul Revere riding through the streets on his horse going, the British are coming, the British are coming. Old stuff, and it matters. And once we decide something in the media, before you have heard one shred of evidence, prejudge this case before anything has taken place, then all of that is lost. And we are truly a country that is no longer ruled by law, but by the media. I get it. We've lost. Mr. Tellini, we lost. Stout, we lost. We have lost in the court of public opinion in the media. He's guilty. I get that. This is a court of law. As Judge Werner said, come through those double doors there. This is a special place. This isn't the media. This isn't Facebook. Wash all of that away. Don't try to get up and walk out of the courtroom before you've started. Do your jobs. Listen to the evidence. When the evidence is complete, go back into the jury room and weigh the evidence. All I'm asking of you, just give us a fair shake. I can see it in your eyes, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of you, as far as you're concerned, I could burn in hell for representing Ms. Stauch. A lot of you won't even make eye contact with me. I might as well just be the devil himself up here running his mouth. But I'm not. No different than those three at that table right there. Paid advocates. Werner here in voir dire says they are paid advocates. Leanie and I were paid advocates. They have their side of the story. And I just want to be heard. Want our side to be heard. And if at the end, guilty, but you weighed the evidence, you listened, you didn't prejudge the case, your biases, your sympathies, your prejudices that you had at the beginning of this trial, if you didn't let those come in, were fair and impartial, but it's still guilty, I'll take that. I'll take that in a case like this. A lot of evidence. Very, very difficult case. So don't quit on me.
The feed's getting
Now-
all choppy.
Mr. Allen is right. He's a good attorney, well-spoken, be elected DA. This is going to come down to insanity. Maybe here.
Here's Letecia.
Was killed back in January 20. How do you figure that out? How do you look into the mind of a sick person and divine what they are thinking?
Sounds like it.
Well, evidence, people's statements, observations, worded statements, phone call, heard Ms. Stauch talking on. That's good stuff. What else can you look at? Motive.
Look at the judge.
Somebody's motive. Remember that word? Up every day during jury selection for the past 2 weeks by the prosecution. Motive. You were told, and rightly so, by the prosecution that there is no requirement for the prosecution to prove motive. They're right. Does that mean that motive doesn't matter? No, it doesn't. Not mean that. Even the own jury instruction talking about insanity, the prosecution just put up on the board, talked about motive or lack of motive could be a sign that there is insanity or not insanity. And it's in the jury instruction there. So it does matter. It's not required, but it matters. And it matters because it's evidence. You don't have a motive, that goes to show a lack of evidence. Say there's a couple people involved in a shooting and a murder out in the community. Paper reports it as a random, senseless act of violence. One person shot to death. Police investigate. They have 3 people that are suspects that were there at the scene at the time of the shooting. One problem for the investigators. Don't really have any other evidence. A week later, doing some good police work, they uncovered that one of the 3 people was a drug dealer who was ripped off the week before the shooting by the dead man. A lot of money and drugs were stolen. All of a sudden, with that information, this random, senseless act of violence becomes a murder with a motive. It does matter. Could you?
You need to put it up. It's not hooked up yet. You can turn off the perimeter lights if you want.
Perimeter
I'm
lights.
not getting a feed come through.
I think he's going to use the whole
You are
hour.
hooked up to the defense. Still not coming through. Oh, there you go.
Enlarge that or
That's what you're looking for, right?
That's the photo. Ladies and gentlemen, if you will turn your attention to the two boards, screens,
That's a photo of Letecia and Gannon together.
this fancy pointer that you were alluding to, Judge.
He's like so giggly. He sounds like he's had something to drink.
All right, we've got a photo here.
Yes, we do.
We've got some familiar looking faces.
This guy.
Gannon, Letecia Stauch. Stepmom, stepson. Gannon's little sister in the back. You look at that. Looks like everybody's doing pretty good. Happy, sunny day. Maybe Miss Stauch is doing a selfie, holding the camera out. Whatever. When would have this photo been taken?
This guy. Oh my word.
The day before Gannon died. The day before he was killed. It wasn't a photo of evil, anger. The photo of someone, by all accounts, who was a loving stepmother. Care of Gannon.
Oh no, no.
Gannon's father was on a deployment. Stauch worked as a teacher herself in the Whitefield School District, an elementary school teacher. Got a person that was, living what seemed like the American dream in a nice suburban house in Lorson Ranch, the suburbs of Colorado Springs, Colorado.
Me too.
But behind those photos and Miles, Stauch. Oh,
Yeah, I do.
okay. Stauch was hiding. Stauch was feeling trauma and abuse that had been going on since she was a toddler. A troubled childhood. Mother wasn't really much of a mother.
Boo-hoo, everyone.
She had a line of stepdads or boyfriends or whatever. Her mother, come in and out, come in and out, in and out, in and out of her life. From the time she was 3 or 4 years old, Miss Stauch, until she finally moved out. And she suffered. She suffered horrifically
Not as much as Gannon did.
from these stepfathers, these boyfriends of her mother.
Mm-mm.
Watched her mother get beat by the boyfriends, physically abused, till eventually the physical abuse, these men reserved for her mother, eventually trained on the Stauch here. Girl.
Oh no, this is terrible, you guys.
First, it was just physical beatings, whoopings, emotional abuse, verbal abuse, and then it became sexual, where she was molested regularly. 5 or 6 on until she was a teenager.
Doesn't make you stab a child. Okay. My word, making me mad over here.
She used to have to sleep in the car out in the driveway to get away. Not have to molested and sexually assaulted by these men. Sleep in the car in the driveway of her house. And because her mom wasn't around a lot, kind of an absentee mom, a lot of these stepfathers, if you could call them that, cared for Miss Stauch exclusively. Mom was out somewhere doing something, gone for several weeks at a time. And Miss Stauch, as a young child and a young woman and a teenager, was left in the care of these men. How do you deal with this? You're 6, you're 7 years old. What do you do? Physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse. How does a kid handle that?
You don't stab anyone. Oh my word. This guy's making me so mad.
Well, a lot of people that have had bad childhoods
This is unbearable. I agree.
go on and they're fine. There's some that don't. Some is a survival mechanism. Some of these children's personalities fragment. And why do they do this? This fragmentation of the personalities when there's abuse at a young age.
Watch him try to explain DID now.
Because in the case of Ms. Stauch, her abuser was also the person that provided her means for survival. A 4, 5, 6-year-old kid does not go out and get a job and work and acquire their own food, pay the electric bill, pay the rent.
The judge is like,
So while they're being abused, they also, as a matter of survival, have to both hate and love, to fear and placate their abuser / caretaker. How does a person do that? Well, I think in a lot of situations, no one person can do that. That's where the fragmentation personality comes in.
sure, let's stigmatize that. Good job, buddy.
All the good and all the bad, all the evil and the hate can't reside in one place. And I know some of you, based on your jury questionnaires, think I'm telling some fanciful tale about this. I get it. I read the questionnaires. But as such, you have sworn an oath multiple times to follow the law and the evidence. Don't like insanity or dissociative identity disorder. That's okay.
You cannot
No,
stigmatize
for an
like
excuse
that.
or not valid. That's okay. Okay, if you think that outside those doors. In here, you got to believe it's a legitimate mental health defense, that in fact it exists and that it is scientifically backed. You're going to hear doctors, sworn experts on both sides. So yeah, it's in the DSM-4 or 5, which is the book of
4 or 5.
psychological ailments and issues psychologists and psychiatrists use to diagnose things. It's listed, accepted in the scientific community issue, a real issue, dissociative identity,
Mm.
multiple personalities. Now, whether you believe or their experts believe, what our expert believes about whether it was present in Ms. Stauch's case, different issue. But you must, to be fair, impartial, and unbiased, you must believe that it is a possible defense. It is a valid defense. It is a valid defect or disease of the mind that triggers the insanity provisions under the Colorado laws. Laws that trigger when we bring in some testimony or some evidence that there is insanity causes the rules, the laws to pivot. So that the prosecution has the burden of proving beyond a reasonable doubt let's say.
Exactly, Jill.
In this case, circle back around. Why all of that just matters. Going back to motive. Evidence. Exhibits, photos, videos. We're going to be in here for 8 weeks. Rule's going to be out. Making plans for our Labor Day barbecues, not Labor Day, barbecues by the time we get done. But you know what you're probably not going to hear? During all that time with all those exhibits, all that evidence. All those witnesses. You're not going to hear about a motive. You're not going to be given a motive about why Ms. Stauch. January 2020. Reason is there is no motive. There is no reason. Doesn't make sense. It's insane. Smiling photo. Next day, Gannon's gone. No reason for it. Prosecution may say, oh, well, makes it that more tragic that it was such a pointless death of Gannon. I don't know. I'm not going to speculate on that. But there was some major psychotic crack that went on during this time. Go from teacher loving stepmother to 2 children, loving mother to her own child, Harley, a person that Gannon's father entrusted his own 2 kids, watched and loved and by this woman here. Being a killer of a 11-year-old boy. How do you get there? Big jump. There is no
Execution.
explanation for it. I don't have one. She broke on that day, ladies and gentlemen. She broke. Broke from all that was right. Made sense. And the axe, putting Gannon's body in a suitcase and traveling 1,300 miles, whole of Florida, and throwing the suitcase, Gannon's body in it, side of an overpass. Different stories she told. She was raped by somebody. Person who raped her kidnapped Gannon. Hear all the stories. The prosecution's going to play it for you. These are all signs and evidence of a mind, a soul that is broken, most fundamental and profound way.
Fundamental and profound.
So broken, doesn't even know what it was doing. What was going through that person's head? The killer Gannon's head. Stauch's head. All the stab wounds, the shootings, the bruisings, the beatings, the burns. What was going through that person's head? I don't know. I don't know. Stauch couldn't tell you. For the person that she was killing that day, attacking, I wasn't Gannon. I wasn't Gannon to her. Wake up that day and go, I'm going to kill him. No. She was killing the demons. Her life from the dark depths of her childhood and her life. You're going to hear different doctors. We have a Dr. Dorothy Lewis. She's from Yale. She's been at it a long time. An MD. Got a lot of experience with this. Her legal medical opinion is that on the date of this offense, Ms. Stauch was legally insane. Now, the prosecution is going to have some witnesses from our state mental hospital in Pueblo. that I imagine are going to say, no, she was perfect. She knew what she was doing. It's normal behavior for a person to do that. Yeah, she had some mental issues and everything like that, but everybody does, but they don't go and kill an 11-year-old boy. And that is true. A lot of people do have mental health issues. It was talked about in voir dire. Will have very severe mental health issues. They don't go out and kill people. They don't go out and kill 11-year-old boys or their stepsons. They had had a nice hike just the day before, as evidenced by that photo. Don't stab the stepson dozens of times. Discharged 3 bullets, a 9mm handgun at the boy, hitting him once, killing him once. Beat him, burn him, and do all these other things you're going to hear about. Wrong, and it's horrible. She not saying. And she will be held accountable. Not guilty by reason and insanity. We'll get a jury instruction. It's about a paragraph long. It indicates in that case, and I think Judge Warner alluded to it, to one panel of potential jurists in the last couple of weeks. She's found guilty, then it's guilty. She's subject to regular sentencing by the court. But if I'm not guilty by reason of insanity, doesn't mean she walks out of here. She's committed to the state hospital, Colorado Department of Human Services, and they take over from there, the state mental hospital. That's not what we're dealing with here now. So I know there is a natural urge, human urge, a real urge. You hear about that little boy with that big bright smile that you saw on the screen. Hear about what happened to him. Want to make somebody pay. Want to make somebody pay dearly. Not right. Happened today. Awful. But not providing doubt, constitutional protections for presumption of innocence, the right to remain silent, placing the burden of proof squarely on the shoulders of the prosecutor, letting bias or sympathy come in and cloud your judgment. Not going to bring Gannon back. Prejudging the case by what you've heard in the media. It do no good. No, we have a tragedy here. And we know it's terrible. But just listen to the evidence, as I started out with. Don't check out. It's going to be easy. Went into week 6, hearing all these witnesses and looking at evidence. You're going to want to check out. You're going to want to form your decision soon in this case. But you can't do that. For the next 6 to 8 weeks while we're in this trial, you can't form an opinion. Warner was telling you that. You're in an evidence gathering phase now. You're gathering the facts. Like Judge Warner's Miss Denver omelets, this is the ingredient gathering stage. Okay? It's in the cooking stage. When you go back to the jury room after all the evidence is in, you start putting the ingredients together.
Oh, no, no, no.
Omelet or just a ham and cheese omelet. Whether you've got a guilty, not guilty, or not guilty by reason of insanity based on the evidence, the ingredients. When you're in the jury room, that's when you start putting it together. Just writing down, taking notes, taking it all in. Why the judge mentioned several times to you today, I don't want y'all talking about the case amongst yourselves. Kind of a special, hidden, quiet place, this courtroom, especially you jurors. I don't want y'all talking about the case because that leads to deliberating and judgment. It's in the judgment phase. So, thank you for your time. Thank you, everybody, for coming back. We'll be spending a lot of time together over the next couple of months, so keep an open mind. Put a lot of the bad stuff out of your mind for now. What the prosecution has to say, hear what the defense has to say. At the end of this, as Mr. Allen said, when he's concluded his opening statement, he said, I'm going to come back in a couple months and ask you to find her guilty. I or Mr. Cellini in 2 months are going to ask you to find her not guilty by reason of insanity. Now the trial starts. Had opening statements, you've had all that now. He said, and I said, it's not evidence. Checked it up on the board and the videos and the audios that he played. That's not evidence. Remember what the judge said. If you had to deliver a verdict right now, it's not guilty. Woman right here is not guilty. He's presumed innocent. Not telling you to like it. I'm just telling you that's the way it is. I'm going to stop now
Thank you.
because I'm running out of steam.
Oh, my word.
I really, really, really do appreciate your time. I know the judge, pays due, said earlier, you're the ones that are making the sacrifice. You're the ones that, are losing money because you're not able to go to work. That, your workspaces, your offices are idle. You're going to be here for 2 months. What we do, this is where we work, all of us, the attorneys, we pay. They're the ones that make the sacrifice in this case. And I do appreciate it. And on behalf of my attorney, Mr. Cellini, I know he appreciates it. Thank you.
Todd,
Wow.
can you get the last perimeter light, please. I'm not sure which one it is.
Perimeter lights.
Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to give you a little bit of roadmap as to what you can expect and where we go from here. As I said this morning, opening statements are not evidence. Their purpose is only to help you understand what the evidence will be. Keep in mind that in this case, as in every case, attorneys are paid advocates. Their job is to persuade you that evidence proves or does not prove a particular point. And as I said earlier, nothing an attorney says is evidence, and they do not take an oath to tell you the truth. Next, the prosecution will offer evidence. Evidence consists of the sworn testimony of the witnesses, the exhibits received in evidence, and stipulated, admitted, or judicially noticed facts. After the prosecution's evidence, the defendant may present evidence in her own behalf, but she is not required to do so. I want to remind you that the defendant is presumed to be innocent. The prosecution must prove the guilt of the defendant beyond a reasonable doubt. The defendant does not have to prove her innocence or call any witnesses or introduce any evidence. At the conclusion of the evidence, I will tell you the rules of law which you are to use in reaching your verdict. I will read those rules of law to you, and you will be allowed to take them with you to the jury room during your deliberations. After you have heard all of the evidence and the instructions, the prosecution and the defense may make their closing arguments. Like opening statements, closing arguments are not evidence. The prosecuting attorney will have the opportunity to reply to the closing argument made by the defense. You will then go to the jury room to deliberate on a verdict. Your purpose as jurors is to decide what the facts are, and your decision must be based solely upon the evidence. It is my job to decide what rules of law apply to the case. You must follow all of the rules as I explain them to you. You may not follow some and ignore others. Even if you disagree with or do not understand the reasons for some of the rules, you must follow them. You will then apply these rules to the facts which you have determined from the evidence. In this way, you will determine whether the prosecution has proven the guilt of the defendant beyond a reasonable doubt. At times during the trial, attorneys may make objections. That's the part in the TV show or movie where one lawyer asks a question and the other one stands up and objects. On TV, the lawyers start to argue with each other, and then sometimes they go up to the bench and they argue with the judge. I know you're going to be surprised, but that doesn't happen in real life. The lawyers in this room have years of experience. They know that the procedure in this case is governed by a written set of rules that apply to all criminal cases called the Colorado Rules of Criminal Procedure. They also know that the evidentiary matters are governed by a written set of rules called the Colorado Rules of Evidence, which apply to all case proceedings, to all cases proceeding to trial. Watch the lawyers, and you will observe that what really happens is that an objection is made. I will ask for an explanation, something like grounds, for the objection, and the response from the attorney will be something like hearsay or foundation or relevance or 404. And most of the time, watch the attorneys closely, most of the time the attorneys will state an objection in 5 words or less. There's not a whole lot of arguing that's going on during that time period. And regardless, the argument is never directed to opposing counsel, because I'm the one making the ruling and not opposing counsel. So in reality, the lawyers rarely come up to the bench to argue a point, because all they need to do is reference the rule, case, or principle they are relying upon for their objection. In any event, the objection simply means that the lawyer is requesting that I make a decision on a particular rule of law. It is the duty of a lawyer to object to evidence which they believe may not be properly offered. Do not draw any conclusions from the objections or from my rulings on the objections. If I sustain an objection to a question, the witness may not answer it. As jurors, you must draw no inferences from the question or speculate as to what the witness would have said if permitted to answer. At other times, I may instruct you not to consider a particular statement that was made. You must not consider any evidence to which an objection has been sustained or which I have instructed you to disregard. Such evidence is to be treated as if you had never seen or heard it. We talked about the notebooks that you have and the juror questions and the process for doing that. They know where to meet, Mr. Combs? They know where to meet in the morning? All right. Give us just a few minutes, and we will get you the parking passes. They're on a lanyard, so keep them, because that's what you'll need to get in and out of the juror parking lot. The issue about the truck. Haven't solved it yet. And there's a juror that cannot get into the parking garage because of size of vehicle. Who is that? Just raise your hand. Don't leave yet. We'll talk to you. We'll talk to you. I mean, you can leave the courtroom, but don't leave the courthouse just yet. And for the rest of you, it's going to take just a couple of minutes, unless, Todd, you want to run down there on my bookshelf. Do you know where that is? Okay. And so Todd, oh, no, I mean, wait, Todd, come back. It's all good. There. So he's going to get you the lanyards with parking passes on them. Use them to come in, and we will talk with juror number 14 about.
I'm just putting the sound off for a second. I'm
what
just
to do with your
waiting
situation.
to
We have a
see
solution.
how they leave the room or when they leave the
Rachel,
room,
are
and
you
then
still here somewhere?
I took some notes and we can
Stick
snark it a
around.
little
We need to
bit.
talk. I
Okay.
think we can use the same solution
We
that
might
we
have
did for the
to
other
have a
juror that
member
was coming
stream to
back at
really
11.
snark
That
it.
work?
Because what
Okay.
in the hell was
All right.
that?
We
Okay,
have a
let's just
solution,
continue
so
listening a
just
little
hold
bit.
on and we will get to you. With that, if I can have everyone, you'll know where to meet Mr. Combs in the morning and how to get into the building. We should be able to start right on time tomorrow at 9 o'clock. What you can expect is that we will start with witnesses. We will take a break for 15 or 20 minutes, somewhere between 10 and 10:30. Then we will proceed on to lunch at noonish, come back 1:15, 1:30, have a break 15, 20 minutes, somewhere between 3 and 3:30 in the afternoon, then recess at 5 o'clock. That's how your day will look every day from here on out. The other thing that you should expect, so that it doesn't catch you off guard, is that every day that we start trial after today, well, I did it this morning actually, but every day that we start trial from here on out, I will ask you a question. And that is, it will be the same question every day. You're going to get sick of hearing it, but it's the same question that I'm going to be asking. Has anything occurred since we were last together that causes any of you to believe that you could not continue to serve as a fair and impartial juror in this case? If so, please raise your hand. So that's why those admonitions that I said about avoiding press, avoiding opinions, avoiding research, all of those things, they all come into play. It's important. This is an important process. So with that, your discharge, we'll see you in the morning. All rise for the jury, please.
Okay, there she is. Here she is.
Right. The only one that I knew of was juror 3. Before you step out real quick, does anybody aside from juror 3 need a letter? Okay. All right. We got it. Thank you.
Oh, my word.
So juror 16 and juror 3.
Sure. The tough prison ladies are going to take care of her. She does look like the one in the ring. Oh, my word. Renee. Here she is. Look how far apart these two stand from the defense. My goodness. I mean, these ones are together.
Thank you.
These
You may
ones
all
are
be
like-
seated. Record should reflect the jury has left the courtroom. Mr. Allen, I want to clear up one thing on the record. Because I think it's an issue in, where is this? Where's it listed at though? Huh, okay. I just want to make sure that the count that you are dismissing is count 3, child abuse resulting in death.
Correct. So count 1 is murder in the first degree. 2 is child under 12. 3 is the child abuse resulting in.
Okay.
That's the one that requires an accumulation of injuries, all that kind of thing, not providing. That was charged before Gannon's body was ever recovered. When Gannon's body was recovered, we added one, which is now in the first reading.
Okay, so this would have been, I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's count 3 of the amended information.
Okay, and that's what I wanted to check on, because the original complaint information that was filed on March 11 only has 4 counts, and count 3 is tampering with a deceased human body, and in that one, count 2 is the child abuse resulting in death. So it looks like what happened, they didn't realize the amendment, and when they put it in, that's what the conflict is.
The amendment was filed probably March 18th, roughly.
I have March 20, yeah. Okay, so what you are proposing to dismiss is the one knowingly or recklessly caused an injury or unreasonably placed in a situation that posed a threat of injury to life, health, or safety by engaging in a continuing pattern of conduct that resulted in cruel punishment, mistreatment, and accumulation of injuries. That's the one you're wanting to dismiss.
So count 3 in the amended information.
So it's the amended information. That's where the hang up is. Okay, I think we've got that resolved. Okay, so have your witnesses here 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. We should be able to start right on time at that point. And Rachel, I want to talk to you when we're done. Is there anything else that we need to address from the prosecution? Defense? Okay. All right, Rachel, can you come back in the back hallway for a minute, please? All right, court will be in recess. Thank you.
There she is. Ooh, and that is just like done. Wow, okay. Just boom, finished. So, justice for Gannon, that's what it's about. Sure, that was hectic, you guys. Oh my word. So thank you for being here with me, and thank you for sharing all your thoughts throughout that very painful opening statement. It was quite something, especially when he's comparing the evidence phase of the trial, which starts tomorrow at 9 o'clock, to making an omelet. Like, what? Please don't ever say that again, dude. He's like, ham and cheese omelet or just omelet? Also, with him saying he's running out of steam. Like, okay, I'm going to stop now because I'm running out of steam. What? That was really hectic. Oh my gosh. And I really do think it seems like he had a drink or two at lunch, because I don't remember what word he was trying to say here, but he actually said poo, and then he said something else. And he also said, we're going to be in this chat. And he's like, I mean, in this courtroom. Oh dear. Yes, this is the ingredient stage, he said. Oh my gosh. Lieutenant Peter Pronzo says, thank you, G. Well done. That was quite something, huh, everyone? But for me, the most offensive was using an already stigmatized disorder, which is a severe trauma disorder, and saying, ladies and gentlemen, it's in a DSM-4 or 5. Okay, DSM-5. You know, multiple personality. No, it's called dissociative identity disorder. And then being like, this is real. This is what she has. It doesn't matter. You can't imagine saying, I'm going to use another example. Okay. Don't get triggered, anyone. But imagine if it's like, she has OCD. This is why. I mean, it makes no sense. You cannot say that. And even Jeffrey Dahmer, he didn't get the insanity plea. He didn't win by, the not guilty by reason of insanity. Neither did John Wayne Gacy and so many others before. So, like, please. And also, just to say, when he's going through all of her, alleged childhood abuse, she doesn't seem triggered at all. She doesn't move at all. She doesn't do anything. So I just think the way they're also sitting, you know how far apart the defense was sitting? They're sitting far apart from each other and from her. I'm telling you, man, I'm calling it. She's going to act out big time. On one of these days, she's going to show. how insane she is. You know what I mean? I feel sorry for the jury. Oh my word. So yeah, it's going to get ugly. Mm-hmm. Angela's like, he's gonna snark it up with Rachel about the difference. He's like, Rachel, you just stay behind. I just continue to talk to you. Right? Yeah, the defense attorney thinks it's funny. No, I mean, it's so terrible. Now, if you don't know much about this case or you want to catch up before this all begins now tomorrow, I do have a playlist for you, and we've done a deep dive. This case, it's always gripped me. I'm sure you as well if you hear, and it's just like, oh man. So we've got 3 hours here and 3 hours here that we did, and another almost 4 hours there. We've read that probable cause affidavit in every detail, mapped it out, her Google searches, the letters that Letecia, I think that is on one of these recent ones we did. One of these ones on the playlist, you'll see. We looked at even the letters that she's been writing in the jail and just saying how she's going to escape, using a broomstick to bash out a window, and that's how she's going to do it. And just the way she's still manipulating now in jail, you know what I mean? Wow. Yeah, this is Marie says, oh please, I have PTSD and OCD. When I have no insanity attached, right? It's just when you take something that is already so stigmatized and portray it like that, especially for people who know nothing about it, about trauma, about PTSD, CPTSD, DID, and all the in-between disorders and everything else. Wow, that's just like a 2023 no-no, is to stigmatize a mental health disorder, in my opinion. I think humanity's come a long way, I hope. To me, it seems so, to understand and talk about mental health awareness, right? You can't say this person, she was, they actually did say that. Remember with the Nashville shooter? They were like, but she was suicidal. Okay, but it doesn't mean you go and kill all these people, right? There can't be a defense. Not that that one survived, but you know what I mean. So that I found really offensive. I found it really offensive and so lame. Let me just quickly see. So hearing what Letecia, we haven't even heard the evidence or anything. It's just like hearing just the bits of what she did to Gannon. It's absolutely heartbreaking. I've always told you guys, if you're an OG and you've been here for a long time, cases, I'm sure for all of us, it feels the same, but it really hits heavy when it's a case involving a child. 11-year-old Gannon, I mean, no. What she did to him, and when they're saying things, they're stabbing, they're shooting, but they're also talking about bruises and burning and stuff, that is absolutely horrendous. And you cannot say, when he put up that picture, look at it, this is insanity, because look, they're smiling the day before. She was already the day before making sure to tell the school that he's not going to be there the next day because he's been up all night struggling with his with like stomach ache and stuff. Who knows what that was all about, what she was actually doing to him, but it's terrible. The candle wax incident happened before the day, so it's just horrible. Yeah, this is the thing. So Heavy Metal Rehab says the defense is hoping the jurors are ignorant about mental health, and I don't think they are, and I don't know them. I just think that humanity's come a long way. There's a lot more awareness for mental health disorders, challenges, just to openly talk about things. Well, at least in my world, I openly talk about things, and it's just like, I don't think that the jurors are probably eye rolling just like us. What do you guys think? Probably like, wow. Jill says, very disrespectful to people who have those disorders, people who have mental illness, don't heinously harm children. Yes. If you've ever seen the movie series, I mean, I love this director. There's a movie called Unbreakable, and then it became like a trilogy. Unbreakable, Split, and Glass. I mean, Split really upset the DID community because that also portrayed an extreme version of it, like so exaggerated. And in the end, the person had a personality that was like a beast, like a killer, and they're like, no, no, no. That was already upsetting and stigmatizing. So to in court hear someone say that, well, this person, they just, so what? Then you dissociate, okay? And then now you're someone else, and what? That person's a killer? Yeah, right. Come on. No. The whole point of the disorder is to survive trauma. Is not to suddenly dissociate and run around becoming a child killer. You know what I mean? Anyway, so yeah, I think it's very insulting. I'm sure, you know, people who have some mental health awareness are offended. You haven't heard about this case. Okay, well, if you've not heard about it, start here. I actually did a recap. So if you don't have time to watch all these like longer streams, if you do want to watch the longer ones, you'll hear everything on the probable cause affidavit. But I recently did, see, this was 2 weeks ago, a 23-minute one for you, as well as a 20-minute one for you. Those work hard on those to make those like shorter ones with jam-packed with information. So I hope you'll go check that out as well. Yes, okay. Yeah. Autumn. Oh, but everyone, oh my word, her interview. I mean, even that. Let's talk about her interview. Remember that her media interview with her back facing the camera? She wouldn't face the camera. Okay, well then was she psychotic in that state? Because it doesn't sound like it to me. You know what I mean? Like you can't say it sounds like someone psychotic, but she sounded very calculated in the moment. She called her daughter over to help like cover up or like remember when we went hiking there and remember when we did this, huh? And just tell them. And I think she had that van like there, which people have speculated could have had Gannon's body in that van because then they went to Florida on a road trip. So if you look at the map time and if you look at a Google search history and if you look at the premeditated actions, like texting the school, no, he's not coming in tomorrow, texting her husband to say, that Gannon wasn't feeling well, and also leaving the car with Gannon's body at the airport, picking up her husband in a rental car. So she drops the car at the airport, picks up her husband in a rental, gets a rental car, and he's like, "Why do you have a rental car?" She's like, "Oh, I don't want to add miles on my Tiguan. That's why." And he's like, "Okay." And then later in the night, she goes back to the airport, gets the Tiguan, and drives around and goes back many times. She moved Gannon's body from the house to the car, from the car to the airport, from the airport to where she dumped it initially. She went back there, picked it up, put it back in the car, drove to Florida, and then threw the suitcase off a bridge, it sounds like. But oh my word, that's a lot. That's a lot. Yes, most people would dissociate a little bit. They used to call it daydreaming. Hallie says, thank you, Grizzly, for your hard work. We'll definitely check out your other work on this. Thank you so much. And thank you to MN Mom for your $50 super sticker and to Icicle as well. Thank you so, so much. And to everyone, if I didn't read it out, I did put it on screen. And when I wave at you, just know I'm saying thank you. I just don't want to interrupt what's going on. But I really, really appreciate it. And I always read all your messages afterwards, after every stream, with every super sticker and everything, the buy me a coffees, the PayPals, and all the things that you guys do. You guys are so sweet. I read them all and I take them to heart. Okay. That's something I learned in therapy, because one shouldn't take the troll. There's a lot of troll comments, a lot of hate, on being online. So what you need to do is take in the positive comments and the love. It really is nice. So I do sit and I do that. So I thank you so, so much. And it's not just super stickers and PayPals and coffees. Everyone, thank you so much for all your kind comments. Chloe, thank you for everything you are and do. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Yes, Emin Mom says the whole interview was all about me, sickening. So sickening. I want to quickly show you this picture that someone has put on. Kathy Russin. Kathy Russin, judge only allows us to broadcast his webinar feed and no other media cameras on the courtroom. The defendant is all the way to the right, her head poking above the monitor. Note, in pretrial hearing, Stauch said she wanted to wear orange jail clothes. She changed her mind. Okay, so she's already flexing, that, ooh, look at me, I'm so indecisive. Because remember, I've got this, I'm just going to help stigmatize an already stigmatized disorder. Change my mind. I mean, like, hello, lady. Woman changed their mind, okay? But anyway, she's like, yep, she's going to wear this. My word. So, yes, that's the thing. Julie says, yes, take in love. It takes effort, If you've grown up and you're used to hearing all kinds of negative things, it's quite an exercise to learn to wire your brain to take in positive comments and kindness. But you guys are amazing. I really love this community. Thank you so, so much for everything you do. If you're not yet part of this community, make sure you subscribe. Hit the bell. That's for you. The bell, like, I know it's annoying when YouTubers are like, subscribe and hit the bell, but hit the bell because then you get notified when I'm next going live or, uploading something for you or whatever I'm doing, making shorts. Yes, justice for Gannon. Thank you, Jelly Bean. Yes. Grizzly Cat says people who are psychotic don't know they're psychotic. She took time to plan, executed her plan, and attempted to hide and mislead what she'd done. She wasn't psychotic. I mean, the Google searches, even just her own map time research, everything she did, the cleanup, oh my word, even asking her daughter to bring over the usual Walmart type list, baking soda, carpet cleaner, all that kind of stuff. Oh, yes. That was quite something, huh? Yes, and Jen's still there. Seriously, this guy. Yes, please stop now. I know, right? He also said, I also wrote this down. He literally said, "Who gives a shit?" Right? Like, whoa. Sorry, what? Even that to me was disrespectful in the courtroom. To the jury, to the judge, to the jury, to everyone sitting there, to Gannon's family. What in the hell was that? Like, who gives a shit, right? Don't talk like that, okay? Maurice says, "Thank you, G. We Grizzlies all love you. You help us with real life experience and knowledge that we are all a family here. Thank you so much. Yes, really, really appreciate it. And I'm glad. Yes. Okay. And Harlot Oscara says, "Thank you for creating the community, G. And thank you all for supporting this community. I'm glad that you all are here together with me." So, yeah, that's the thing. Sorry, one more comment here. I thought that too, because I was really surprised he swore in court. I'm telling you, that guy had a couple of tequilas before he went in the courtroom. Even how he was sitting afterwards. When it's like, okay, I'm not now. Everyone else is like sitting still. The other defense attorney was like, oh man, he's just sitting there like, oh my word, like what the hell, It was quite something. So yes. All right, everyone, let me just quickly check that I've done everything. Yes. He didn't say Gannon's, he said it once. He said Gannon's name once. Other than that, he called him the boy. And he made this whole pity party for Letecia, which I know he has a job to do, but I just honestly would give it a 1-star rating. I thought it was not good. And that's my opinion. I'm allowed my opinion too. I didn't like it. I found it extremely offensive to everything. I've already spoken to that. I won't go over it again, otherwise I'm going to eye roll. Very offensive, disrespectful, swearing, not saying Gannon's name, and trying to stigmatize a already stigmatized disorder, and being like, that's it. This is why. This is the motive. There's no motive. It's something she's got DID. Hello? Excuse me? My word. I'm sure the whole DID community is going to be pissed at this. Right? If they hear this is terrible. Okay. So, thank you so much. Yeah. Side eyes. I was like, oh, my word. Yes. So, thank you so much, everyone. I will see you again soon. As I say, I don't generally stream the whole trial, but I'll be watching and I'll bring you updates. I find trials very long and very boring. There, I said it. I think it's long. So I need to be doing something else while watching the trial. And when there's moments that I'm like, wait, what? Well, then I'm writing things down. I'm making bullet points and I'm bringing that to you guys. Okay. So thank you so much. And I will see you in the next one. Thank you, mods. I know this was round 2. Really appreciate it. And I'll see you guys again soon. Okay, bye.